Title called I Almost Ruined My Marriage. Pastor Eno, thank you for being on our set today.
I'm excited to be here, actually.
I'm excited to have you here. When I saw your book, all I needed was like the title. I saw the title of it, I was like,
Okay.
First things first, a Nigerian
Yes.
wrote this kind of book. And then you added my true life story. Tell us about this book. Give us the backstory into this book.
This book actually came from the place of prayer. I actually, before now, I've written about 3-4 books. I haven't published any yet.
Interesting.
Yes, so I've just been writing, but I haven't.
So you're a writer.
So
we're
yes,
all writers.
yes,
You've been expressing,
you know. And there was an afternoon I was praying and I asked God, I wanted to write something that He would want me to write, and He should tell me what to write. And I want something that would be easy to write. So that evening, surprisingly, my husband came back that day and he said that God just dropped it in his heart that I should write a book about my marriage, about my own experience, you know, in marriage, you know. So, and it just, you know, I was just like, okay, I actually, you know,
just
prayed a prayer and this, you know, because we didn't have that conversation.
Yeah.
So I went back, and that was how the title came, because it's actually my true life story. Everything I said in the book is what I did.
You said very deep things,
Yes.
and you revealed very raw things that we don't like to talk about
yes.
in this part of the world.
Yes, and that was one of the challenge, you know, initially, because if in this part of the world we don't like telling our stories, because not because maybe people want to tell their stories, but because
of how you think people will
perceive,
then,
you know, they'll perceive you and what they will say or what they won't say. But because I knew it was God that was telling me to write the book, I wasn't really interested in what people would say or what they wouldn't say. And also considering that a lot of marriages are going through, you know, when you sit on the counseling table and you hear what's going on in homes, you know, you just know that, you know, and when you're trying to explain to them and tell them, oh no, you can do this way, you know, they'll be like, you know, you don't understand. You don't understand. So, and at that point, I can't start telling them, okay, no, but you know, I have been there, I've done. So, but this book is now like, okay, I have done these things. And, you know, being a pastor's wife, you know, so it's even, you know, so you're there, everybody sees you like one perfect.
You're such a saint.
You know, so that, all of that, you know, was all I had to think about. But sincerely, I wasn't bothered, because I knew God said I should write the book. And the day I finished writing this book, surprisingly, that morning I was praying and God told me that I must finish this book that day. That there's an urgency in the spirit for this book to go out. And He started telling me a couple of things that will happen after I finish writing this book, what He was going to do through this book. And sincerely,
all those things
have happened in such a short period of time. Yes.
Fantastic. So let's go into the content of the book. So the book is obviously about the fact that you had a bad attitude going into marriage. You had anger issues, respect issues, unforgiveness issues, and all those things, and how you express that bitterness. And as women already, we have a mouth issues. Depending on how you use it matters.
Yes.
For those that haven't read the book, give us a background into why you said you almost ruined your marriage before we then go into the concepts of the book.
Okay. Because, you know, when you get married, and I got married at a young age.
Yes, so you said you met your husband at the age of 19.
Yes, I was 19 when I met him. We went out for 5 years before we got married, you know, so, and the home I came from had a role to play with the way, you know, I became, you know. So I grew up in a home where, you know, you see your parents fight, you know. So, and I never knew that, you know, like my mom, maybe you say, was hot-tempered or anything. It's after I wrote the book and I was telling her what I wrote, because they saw it on Facebook.
How did your parents?
Oh, they saw it on Facebook, and they're like, what did she do? You know, that kind of so. So my mom now, you know, calls me on the phone. Even my dad called me. My mom calls me on the phone, and I start telling her that, you know, what's the content of the book. And she said, well, it's really true. If it's going to help another family, actually, when, you know, those days I used to be very hot-tempered, you know, and I never knew my mom was hot-tempered. You know, as children, we just saw them fight.
I just thought that was
just how, you know,
it was. Yeah, that's how it was supposed to be.
So I grew up, you know, with that, you know, that's how things are, you know, are done. That it's only when you start fighting physically, that's when things
resolve the matter.
You know, and that's when things have gone too far. But you can shout, you can get angry, you can, you know, raise your voice. So it was a normal thing for me. So my surprise was when I got married and it all became an issue. And I'm like, I've been like this all these years. Everybody loves me the way I am. So why is it now a problem? You know, so that was me. You know, that was what formed the book. So basically, it's just me sharing my experiences. And you know, another thing was that I loved going for marriage classes, relationship classes, you know. I started praying. I said in the book, I started praying when I was 16.
Yes. To get married. Yes.
So I started praying quite early. So I would go for every marriage class, all these seminars they do in universities.
So technically, you were preparing yourself for this marriage.
And why I was preparing was because of where I was coming from. So I didn't want to make the same mistake.
So you knew. So at the same time, while what you had seen modeled before you was fighting, a part of you also knew that this was not necessarily right.
Yes, I knew it wasn't right. You know, I knew it wasn't right because when we're growing up, we'll be crying when we saw our parents.
When you saw them fighting.
Yeah, so we'll cry, you know, and like, oh, daddy, stop, you know, leave mommy, you know, all of that. So I knew it wasn't right. So I always would tell God, please, I want a peaceful man. I want a peaceful home. So I'll always go for the classes. But the problem was that in such classes, they don't tell you, they just tell you, 5 things to look out for in a man. You know, all those prescriptions, they give you prescriptions.
I like that, prescriptions. Like it's a drug. Like,
yeah,
take
it, you know, and not telling you the real thing. So I never heard, the things I put down in my book, I never heard them. If I heard them, I'm sure it would have helped me.
And one of the things I liked that you said was because you had always been this way, so people say, oh, you talk a lot, be a lawyer. Society was also enabling things that seem to be, quote unquote, a bad attitude. Because, you know, that's just how you are. And then we also get into the point where we say, but that's how I am. That's how I talk.
Yes.
That's who I am.
Yes, you know, and that's the place of, you know, validating your weaknesses.
Exactly, that's the word, validation.
So you have a weakness and society is validating it. That society is validating your weakness doesn't mean
that your weakness is right.
So I said it that I had 2 people offer me to sponsor me actually in school to study law. One was before marriage, the other one was while I was married. So imagine I'm in a marriage and my husband is complaining and someone is telling me,
go
and study law. I'm going to pay. Well. You can, you know, because I could argue. So when I argue, you can't win me in an argument. And it's not because I'm arguing with facts, but just because I won't give up. So you will get tired.
So you might even be wrong, but you're arguing and that's wrong.
Oh, yes. And you will get tired, so you will back out. And I'm like, okay, I've won. So it was always about winning. You know, so that also, you know, it really played. And you imagine, you know, when you're married to a man, if you do such things, a man wants to, there are times they just want to say something, and whatever they say, you just take it.
Yes.
Everything, even whether you like it or not, you know. So, but there's nothing you say that I'm going to take because I have an opinion. I always had an opinion, so it was a problem.
So we need to go on a break now, but when we come back, I'll also go into the specific concepts, because you said many interesting things in this book that I think that a lot of people need to unlearn certain things and learn, because a lot of us are the products of our past, and you don't realize how it's affecting the present and how it would even affect the future. But we'll go on a short break now. This is a very interesting conversation. Trust me, you don't want to miss it. We'll go on a short break now, and we will be right back. You're welcome back to Chapters, and today we're talking about attitude in our marriages and the effect that our attitude can have on the state and the success of our marriages. And with me is Pastor Eno Jerry, the author of the book, I Almost Ruined My Marriage. Well, let's go deep into the book, like I said. And one of the first things you said was the fact that you had anger issues, which you then took into your marriage. How did that affect the relationship between you and your husband? How are you manifesting your anger issues in your marriage?
Okay, I did different things, and I'm going examples, you know, because I usually would be very angry, so at times I would, you know, the problem is that when you're angry, you don't even know what you do. You forget. People that are angry forget easily. It's the people
those that you did it to
that will remember the things you did.
That's true.
So there are a lot of things that I did that I can't remember, but But you know, like when I discuss my husband will tell me, and I'm like, no, who does that?
that?
I'll even tell him who does that. I couldn't, you know, because now I know I can't do that again. But I can remember when we got married, the first week we got married, then he was working with United Nations.
Yeah.
And he went to Abuja. He said, let's go to Abuja together. So I went with him. And for some reason, you know, he left, he went to work. I really don't even know what my problem was that day. You know, maybe because he left me in the hotel and didn't probably maybe plan on how I'm going to eat, or I really don't
remember.
I can't remember what
it
was that was upsetting me, but I know it was just because he left me and he didn't call.
Maybe he didn't check up
throughout the whole day. So, you know, as an angry person that I was already boiling, and I was just waiting for him to come back. So when he came back, the look on my face alone would have told him that there's already a problem. And I started nagging, I started complaining. There was nothing he could tell me that could, you know, pacify me. I just kept complaining and complaining. And at some point, he just went and sat at the corner, you know, like in a hotel where the bed is and the phone. He just went there, sat there and started crying. And it was when he started crying that I just discovered, okay, maybe I've taken it too far. I'm like, oh, and I said, oh, I'm sorry.
And this was because the first week.
This was just our first week in marriage, you know. Things like, you know, like this one, he told me, you know, that I did it. I can't remember I did it. He said he could remember one of those days. Still the first, you know, that first week, you know, first week of our marriage. And I was so upset, you know, and I broke the plates in the kitchen. Wow. You know, I got so angry, I just entered the kitchen and, you know, shattered plates. Sincerely, I can't believe I could do that kind of thing, but I did it actually, you know. Or, you know, things like that, you know. I usually would get angry, I would bang the door at him. So he'll be talking to me and
you said you would walk out.
I'll walk out. Yeah, when he's talking to me, I'm like, I can't take this anymore, you know, it's getting, so I'll just ignore him, walk out, and I'll make sure I bang the door. So these were the kind of things I did. And I don't think any man, there's no man that will want to feel that way, because it also communicates disrespect.
Yes, which was a chapter you wrote in the book as well.
Yes, so I talked about disrespect, things I did, you know, to show that, you know, I would, okay, you were talking about anger, now we have moved to disrespect. You know, so maybe I'll use, there's this thing that they say, I don't know how to explain it, but I tried to explain in the book, you know, when you use your nose and you push it up, you know, when someone's talking to you.
It's called yimu.
Okay, okay. So you just use your nose to, you know, do like this, you know. So he was talking and I'm like doing all of that to him.
In front of him?
In front of him, oh, right in front of him, so he sees it. Yes. So, you know, he sees it and he complains and I'm like, oh, I'll give an excuse for why I did whatever, you know, did that. And disrespecting him, I didn't just do it, you know, in secret. I disrespected him in the public. You know, I could talk to him anyhow in front of people. And my husband had always been a pastor. Not like I knew him as a pastor. So you can imagine, you know, that kind of, it was even people, you know, that I knew, maybe like older women that would tell me, no, you know, you don't talk like this in front of people, you know, and all of that. And yet, you know, at times I couldn't even understand what they're saying, and I'll be making excuses for why I'm doing what I'm doing, you know. So this really ate deeply into our marriage, and it really affected our
I'm sure that it, in fact, one of the things that you wrote here, you said separation between spouses isn't only hinged on immorality. The seemingly little acts of anger, unkindness, wickedness, disrespect, dishonesty, lies, deception, envy, jealousy, etc., which couples express towards each other are very strong weapons the enemy uses to break the home.
Yes.
And so those things, sometimes people think it's just adultery, but it's just these little things of disrespect here, you speak somehow there, and especially when you feel you have a right, because sometimes it's because some person has done something.
Yes.
And so in reacting or in responding to that, you really feel as if you're standing on your right. And so you can't tell me any rubbish, you can't tell me any wrong, and you continue to do these things. But for you, how did that then lead to, you talked about bitterness in the book. Did you bring bitterness into the marriage? Or was it his actions that then led to, and all of this that then led to you then becoming bitter?
What I tell people is that bitterness is the elder brother of anger. So if you're an angry person, if you don't deal with your anger and you allow it linger, it turns to bitterness. That's just what bitterness is. Anger that has not been dealt with. So I was that person, but I didn't know that I was that kind of person until I got married. So, you know, it's like when people offend me or make me upset, and I don't maybe like tell them,
and you stew
and I just
on it,
yes, you know, I
in
cook
your
it in my
heart.
heart, and it's there. So it just keeps growing, you know, without me knowing. Then I'm just bitter, you know, about, you know, I just become bitter. And it was my husband that started telling me that, see, you're a bitter person, you know, you're a bitter, you know.
No,
and I'm like, no, how can I, you know, you know,
because in all of this, you were born again.
I was born again.
You were born again,
Spirit-filled, tongue-talking
Christian.
Oh, I was, even in university days, I was in intercessory squad. So we used to go to the village outreaches, go and do evangelism, do dry fast and prayer all night.
And you still had this
so
kind
I
of
had all this, you know, with me, you know.
When did your eyes begin to open?
When my eyes began to open.
Wait, how long, before I said, how long did you then do this for in marriage? For like how many years or months or weeks?
You know, this actually, like this book, you know, I've been married for over 10 years. So my change just started not too long ago.
Wow.
Yes, it just started, let's say, in the 7th year. That's really, so you can imagine how long, you know, because I see people that will even tell me, oh, I've tried 3 years, 4 years, it's not working, I don't think it could work. At times, you know, it takes even longer, because the only time change can come is even when the person realizes that the person has a problem.
Exactly.
So it depends on how long it will take you to realize you know, that you have a problem. Yeah. So for me, when it happened was when I just figured out and saw how I was ruining, because actually it's ruin. The word ruin, yes, it's catchy, but that was what was happening. You know, when I discovered what my actions, you know, or inactions was doing to my marriage. Yeah. So I just figured out, you know, like the Bible will say, a wise woman builds her home, a foolish woman tears it down. You know, and I actually said in my book that, you know, the foolish woman, you don't need anybody to help you. You can do it all by yourself. You can actually tear down your home by yourself. Because the things I didn't have the influence of, you say, like a friend or a type. This is just who I am, you know, and that was who I was, who I was, you know, and its impact. So I just discovered that, you know, at some point my husband stopped talking.
He said, so he became distant.
He became distant.
He'll laugh with other people more.
He won't laugh with me. You know, and you're thinking, okay, your husband should laugh with you. The person is not even looking at you. You can come into a place, he wouldn't even notice that you are there. You know, unlike before, maybe when you enter a place, you know, when you know how the person treated you before. So the person treats you like a queen. As soon as you come, you know, he wants to announce that my wife is here. He wants to take you everywhere. You know, he's just excited. Then, you know, there's this light in the eye, you see. Then all of a sudden, there's no light.
You know that trouble has come.
Trouble, you know. So the person doesn't just, you know, just know that someone doesn't really care, you know. And, you know, because he wasn't talking about it, so as in talking in the sense, he wasn't telling anybody. So it's not as if he will report me to anybody, but it's just something, you know, that in the house, you just know that there's that distance. So there's really nothing to talk about. So you're just together, but you're not saying anything.
Also because maybe he started walking on eggshells. But before I go and say this now.
That was the problem. Because
it would just turn into monster war.
That was the problem, because he would say, even to correct me, you know, if he says something, then it will become an issue. I will blow it out of proportion. So, you know, and that's you know, when I talked about assumption, someone is trying to correct you.
I love that chapter.
You know, someone is trying to tell you something. Oh, see, this thing is not right. And I will start reading another meaning to what is being said. So, you know, and you're just wondering, okay, someone is telling you that you have, you get angry easily. You have to work on your anger. Then I would interpret it as him saying,
there's something wrong with you.
There's something wrong with me. Or he does not like me. Or he just wants to pick, you know, a fight. You know, just with me, you know. So such things, you know, just became it was just an issue. It just became so much. And I think because of that, he just said, you know what, let him just give me some space. And also, if he talks with me, you know, it will turn into an argument. So we'll start arguing, and I would definitely get him upset.
Definitely.
So, you know, that's let us not talk, so that I don't get upset.
So that you don't get upset.
Let her not read meanings into what I'm saying. Let her not, you know. So that was part of why he would just ignore me. So he would rather just see me and just, you know, ignore me. But it was bad. It was bad. And, you know, this is really the part that gets me really emotional, because you don't know what you've done until you just start seeing, you know, it's easy to say these things now, but if you see them play out, you will just know that it's a worse place to be in.
Yeah.
And that's why for someone like me, as I wrote this book, I'm like, if people can, don't even get to this place. Whatever you can do to help your marriage so that you don't get to that point whereby because for me to come, you know, come back. I know that the sleepless nights.
You said so, crying
in the night. I know how much praying I prayed and fasted. The same way I prayed and fasted for the weaknesses. No, for the weaknesses to go. I had to also start doing that to get my husband back.
You know, that's one of the things, yes, and thank you for mentioning that, because one of the things you said was sometimes when you do these things, you expect that saying sorry will just heal the issues. But then, you don't know, you've sown a seed, so you just think because you come and say, oh, my darling, I'm sorry, and then the person is just supposed to bounce back like nothing happened. But you've sown a seed that has hurt the person deeply. And then you think once you say sorry, sorry is the end of the world. But sorry cannot heal the things you've done.
Yes. And you know, that's when my husband always tell me, because when I'll say sorry, and it's as if it's taking him time to come around, and I'm complaining, I'm like, but we're believers, I've said sorry.
No, you're knowing you're believers. You didn't know you were believers when you were acting.
So I'm like, hey, we are believers, you know. And he'll be like, I'm not a light bulb that you switch on and switch off. You know, you don't just, you know, do things at will and you just expect me to just be okay. Then the next minute, as I'm trying to, because as if when he's trying to recover from the one I have done,
I was back to back.
You know, it's back to back. I'm doing another one. You know, so you're still trying to come out of one, you do another one. When do you give the person the opportunity to breathe?
We need to go on a break now, but when we come back, I want to talk about the way forward.
Okay.
How you came out of this. Because many people are watching, some women are saying, I'm like that. Some men are thinking, like you said, that's how my wife is. But there's a way. You've come out of it now. You are a different person entirely. For you to even have written a book, you must be, you need to share with us the secrets to your transformation.
Okay.
We'll go on a short break now. We'll be right back. You're welcome back to Chapters, and my guest is still Pastor Eno Jerry. And before we went on the break, you've told us the interesting stories of, you know, the manifestations in your marriage. And I thank you for your openness and your vulnerability, because like I said at the beginning, these are things that people don't like to talk about or don't like to say that either they are going through or they are by themselves. But after all of that, now I want us to focus on the way forward. What are the things that you did, number one, and how did your husband, you know, in all of this, the role of the spouse is very important. This went on for 7 years. Some people don't survive these things for 1, 2, 3 years. Like you said, there are things that cause separation and divorce in marriages. So what were the steps you began to take? And I'll just read a quote. She said, the journey to a better you was a very tough one. You had memories of countless times you cried yourself to sleep. You tried hard to be a better person. You prayed, you fasted, yet you kept making the same mistakes. You couldn't stop yourself from being angry, shouting, and being disrespectful to your husband. So how did the change begin?
Well, my change actually started from the place of understanding. You know, where the Bible says wisdom is the principal thing. Get wisdom. You know, you're get understanding.
Yes.
So for me, understanding was where my own change came from, because I just discovered that really all these things that I was told that all these things I was doing was actually wrong. And also, I came to that point where I saw a bigger picture of where God was taking me to, more or less like my purpose in life, what my life assignment is. And in order to fulfill whatever it is, whether it's in marriage, you know, having a peaceful home, there are things that you can't do, you know, as in there are character flaws that you shouldn't, you know, or emotional baggage. Yes. That's the word. Emotional baggage. The emotional
that shouldn't carry
into the marriage. So those are the things that I had to, you know, start to let go. So for me, one of the ways that, you know, it was the praying. I prayed about it, like you read. I kept praying and asking God to help me, because the thing is, especially, I don't know, if you're not an angry person, you wouldn't understand what, you know, anger can do, you know, because even when a person resolves in the heart that the person doesn't want to do it, when you go out, it's as if that's the day
You said it, that there's some days that before 12 noon
you've already, you know, all your resolve is just going to the trash, because you just see yourself exhibiting those things that you actually prayed and told God that, see, I'm not going to do it today. So practical things were just like, you know, and my husband was very, in fact, helpful. I think if people have spouses, whether husbands or wives, like my husband, I think marriages will actually fulfill a heaven on earth. You know, as in if you want a heaven on earth kind of marriage, because, you know, I stretched him, but he was still there for me, you know. So, like I said before, I said he never went out to report me. He didn't go out to talk.
He said so.
Because my dad didn't know all this. So my dad was even wondering.
That was until you wrote the book that
I was like,
your parents knew.
So was something going on? So he never, you know, bad-mouthed me or talked about me, but he would tell me, he would always call me and tell me ways to handle anger. He would say, see, if you are angry, don't speak. You know, learn how not to speak in anger. Just, you know, so I said very practical things. Maybe even if someone is saying something and I can't understand, I'm listening to understand, not to give a response. To give your own response. Just finish your answer. And my facial expression, because if I'm angry, my face will tell. So I also start monitoring my, you know when you're talking and you know your face is changing now, you just start deliberately smiling, even if you don't want to smile. You know, so initially you look as if you're pretending, but it's just a way of dealing with, you know, your emotions. These were the things I started doing. And
they're very practical things, which is what I liked, because there's a place of prayer, like you said, but a place of then doing practical things.
We can't just pray alone. We have to do practical things. So after you finish praying, then the grace is available. Then also that place of that still small voice. You know, there's a still small voice when you're angry. That voice speaks to you and tells you don't say anything.
Shut up now.
But most times we know how to silence that voice. There's one that is telling us go, do it, just do it. So when you finish doing it, it's that same one that's saying you do it, that will now start telling you, you see what you have done. So when you get the hang of, you know that, okay, this is what is going on inside. So just being able to control even what goes on inside of you. So when that voice is saying keep quiet, and you being able to say, okay, you know what, let me hold myself, even though it's difficult, and telling out that voice, I'm not going to follow you, because you'll still be the same person that will come, that voice that will still, you know. So that was just practical things. And if you look at if you read my book, you see a lot of things that
different steps.
Yes, I talked about listening effectively. Just listen. You know, even if you don't understand what is being said, you just okay, give me some time to process it. You know, you don't have to give a response per time. Then also, you know, I talked about the place of pride. I talked about pride, and what I said was that most times, and it also is still linked to anger. So at times you don't even know it. It's important you know where your anger, what causes you to get angry.
The root cause of
the anger. I talked about that, because for different people it will be different things. But a lot of times it's pride. And why do I say pride? Most times when we get angry because we think this person shouldn't talk to me like this. I shouldn't be talked to like this. I shouldn't be treated this way. So it's what you think or feel about yourself. And that's what
that you are showing.
That you show. So when you come to that point whereby people can talk to me anyhow, they can treat me anyhow.
And you're not trying to be right. You're not trying to be the one that is correct.
Correct. So anyhow, if you want to talk to me anyhow,
let your ego just
calm down. So once you get to that point, you see that it's easier for people to do things and you don't get upset. So these were the practical things.
Fantastic. You talked about the role of your spouse, and I think that's also very important for anyone watching. And this is not about just the women, because this can either be it can be the man in a relationship that has these issues, and the woman is on the receiving end, and it can be the woman, like it was you, and the man on the receiving end. But what the spouse does is very important. And you said here that the spouse that you are disappointed in today could become a reference point for change and transformation if you don't give up on the person. Because many times we give up too soon. And I know that it can be difficult. Like there was something you said, there's an uncommon frustration that comes with waiting for change, especially when you're not the one who needs to change. So you're looking at and wondering, why can't this woman, why can't this man just change? But the point is, the spouse should just hang in there, and help them through the process. How did your husband handle some of those times when you then started changing? And, you know, how was he sometimes helping you during the change, wondering, is she really changing for real?
It was difficult for him because he has seen me You know, it's like for years you've seen the person doing the same thing.
Yes.
So even when, even when, you know, even when I'm being very sincere, like in my conversation, I just want to just talk and not to argue or to make a problem. He already builds a defense, because that's the thing. There's just this defense that comes up immediately.
Because he's also trying to protect himself and his emotions.
Yes. So he just puts that defense on, and I'm like, no. I've changed, and you're telling me you're looking at you, isn't to see you. So it's part of the difficulty, as in there are places you don't want to get to, because how do you now convince a person that you've changed? So at times I would really, because I used to be very strong-willed, and I'm very independent as well. There are just too many things. So there are things that if I do, you know, it will just make him know, okay, this is different. So at times I could actually even go all the way to like kneel down. You know, I'm just like, you know, because if I should kneel, it means even he himself, you know, this is serious matter.
Yeah.
She's not a
kneeling
kind of person. So there were things I had to now start to do just to make him, and even at times I will cry. As in just cry, please, sincerely. This conversation now is not the old me that is talking. Please, just believe me. So you see me begging just so that the person will understand me. He had to start learning to trust me again. That's just it. Was just a journey of trusting me again. And you know, there's something he always used to tell me that and that's for any spouse that is going through this. You know, he always would tell me that, you know, that what he started doing was that for every time I did these things, it helped his relationship with God. That he just focused his attention on God. So for every time I give it to him, he just goes back. And sincerely, my husband was growing that period. And you know, it's as if he was just having a good time. Because you know, when you're with God, things don't even, and you know, he just knew how to separate the emotions. So whatever I'm doing, he would just find a corner and put it there. But he was just growing. And like now, people will tell him that he's such a patient person. There's nothing that can happen.
I have been through the fire.
And he tells them that God used me to teach him patience. So most times as spouses, the things we go through, it could just be God also teaching us something, because at the end of the day, there's something you will learn as well. You come out a better person at the end of the day. So it's not just about even the person that has the problem. You too, you also go through some changes in the process.
So also see it as a reference, a point of change for your life as well, not just thinking there's something wrong with this person.
Yes, you know, because even if it's self-control, the place of endurance, the fruits of the spirit, long suffering, you will now learn these things to love and really love despite what is going on. So whichever way, whether it's a man or the woman in the relationship, if the most important thing is that you're there for the person, you know, you keep correcting, but you correct in love. You know, there's a problem too. At times people don't even know how to correct. It's not about, you know, some people, their own is just to confront and say, you are wrong, and you're not even telling the person a way out. So for him, he's telling you are wrong, but he's also telling you this is how you can be better. This is what you can do. You know.
So it's giving you correcting and giving you at least solutions. Certainly.
You know, yes.
Wow. We could continue this conversation for the next 10 hours, but we would not be able, because like I said, it's one of those hot topics. But it has been truly, thank you for writing the book, for being open, and for just truly, you've opened a door for many people to just, you know, share their burdens and pour out their hearts. But where can people get copies of the book?
It's on my website, enojerry.com.
Okay.
You can get either a soft copy or a hard copy.
Okay, so it's available, soft copy as well.
Soft copy as well is available on enojerry.com. Then you can also get on Amazon US or Amazon UK.
So all over the world.
So yes, it's all everywhere. Over the world, yes. And then if one goes to, on my website, you could also see like cities like Port Harcourt, Lagos, places that people could pick it up from.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Did I mention you came all the way from Owerri?
Yes, Umuahia, actually.
So thank you, Umuahia.
Yeah.
Thank you for making this. It's further down. For making this sacrifice. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Wow. It has been, I'll use the word again, explosive. today. But I'm going to read a quote from the book to end. And she says that it is important to realize that if you can tear down your marriage through negative actions, then you should also be able to build up the same marriage through positive actions. Regardless of if you've watched this episode and you're thinking whether you fall on the negative side or you're thinking, oh, the matter has become so bad and so broke, nothing can be fixed again, all of that is a lie. She is a testimony to the fact that change is real and change happens. If you are the one in this situation, please realize that change is key. If you are the spouse at the receiving end, please be patient and help your spouse work through it. Whatever you think that is so depressing today would also be the thing that can be the source of joy tomorrow. I want to thank you all for watching Chapters today. And remember, it is not just about what you know, but what you do with what you know. Thank you for watching. Until the next episode, God bless you.